Today we'll be doing more painting. So you'll want to try and get to about halfway done. All right, everybody, you are probably getting close to ready to moving on to making your background. I have painted all of my shapes, all of my analogous colors of red and red-orange. Now I'm going to go in with my red-violet. So in my lid, I've started making a red-violet color. Yesterday, I made this one, but it had a little bit too much violet in it and not enough red. But I kind of like it. So for my background, I'm going to do a little bit of wet on wet mixing, and I'm going to end up using both of these slightly different colors. When you are ready to move on to your background, you can use whatever color you would like, but choose one that matches your color scheme. And then I would also keep in mind whether or not you want to make a darker background or a lighter background. If your shapes are really dark, I would go with a lighter background, but if your shapes are really light, I would go with a darker background. This was my original example that you've probably seen before. And so I went with the purple as my background so that it stood out against the greens and blues. You could also do that where you have a color you haven't used yet as part of your background. So for mine, I'm gonna try to make it, I think I'm gonna go light. So I've mixed a lot of water in here with my color so that it doesn't end up being too dark. When you are painting your background, this is a good opportunity to kind of cover up some areas where you might have gone outside the lines. But you want to be careful that you don't go into your shape, because wherever you put the paint, there is no whiteout. It stays wherever you put it. So I'm going to start over here. Point your paintbrush into the little spaces that you need to fill. So I'm not going to try to go into this corner with that side of my brush because you have no control over it. Now, if you want to go with a fun wet on wet technique, Then while your first color is wet, you can pick up your other color and do a little bit of mixing in there so that you have a background that is slightly different. When you are painting your background, you want to make sure that you're real careful not to go into your shapes. Alrighty, so as you're painting your background, remember a couple of things. Number one, make sure your shapes are dry before you start painting your background. Think about if you want to have a dark background or a light background. You could even have it fade from dark to light. That is perfectly fine by me. Your background can be solid, or you can do a little bit of wet on wet mixing. I'm even okay if you want to put some patterns and stuff back there. Basically, your pattern, or your background can be whatever you want it to be. Just make sure that it's a color that fits with your color scheme. Enjoy. Alrighty, so while you're painting your background, make sure that you're being careful not to get your background color into your shapes. Today's assignment is to take a picture of your artwork and submit it as a progress check. That progress check will help me figure out if the due date is going to work or not. If I have a lot of people who are further behind than I thought, then I might push the due date back. So go into Schoology, take a picture of your assignment, and turn it in for today. Right now I am making the outside edges of my background darker so that it fades to lighter in the inside. You can also go in and add extra details into your shapes. I would do that when you're finished with everything else so that you don't run out of time. But I am going into some of my shapes and I'm adding a little bit of detail, I'm adding a little bit of texture just for fun because I had enough time to do that.